Morning, everybody. How you doing? I'm a little bit sick today. You can kind of hear it in my voice, but what's a little physical illness when after last week I also feel a little bit mentally, a little bit spiritually, and certainly politically ill also. I'm so tired of having to care about politics and things of that nature. It's funny to me because a long time ago, politics was my least favorite thing to talk about. These issues that I've been bringing up in these last several videos were ones that I never would have brought up before because they were irritating and frustrating and caused more conflict than could ever be helpful. But here we are in this strange new era where I feel like to not say anything can be dangerous. So, after feeling like I wanted to scream or something, and watching a lot of people I know take to social media and just scream online, I'm gonna scream here. Maybe for real. We'll see. Maybe at the end. So, let's talk about this stuff. The first week of a Trump presidency was, if we really think about it, everything we should have expected. It's exactly what he kind of told us was going to happen. Many of the promises he made while campaigning, he did his darndest to make happen within his first week. I don't know who likes it and who doesn't. Really, it's tricky. I've been trying to read both sides of this, and I was reading some interesting and compelling things from people who really support what he's doing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's go through some of the things that are making people irritated. Within his first week, 4 executive orders, 4 decrees that do not need approval from the rest of the government. And I think that's really what a lot of the outrage is about. When something is going to get passed, that idea of somebody just writing it out, I'm not checking with anybody. What are you going to do? Oh, right, nothing, because you can't. I see why that's irritating from any president. I get it. Doing 4 in the first week is really fascinating, and it just kind of adds on top of the strange choices and things that Trump has made along the way, from his cabinet picks to executive orders on everything from federal funding for organizations, health organizations, and banning immigrants and refugees from the 7 different Middle Eastern countries. That's the one I want to talk about today, because that one really irritates me, and from what I can tell, it's irritating a lot of people. So here's the deal for me. I've heard the conversations. I live in Southern California. I'm just about to drive through San Bernardino right now. And which, when I first moved here, no one knew what that was. And then after December of 2014, everybody knew the name San Bernardino. The shooting that happened less than 3 miles from my house. It was very close. It was very strange. And it was scary. But soon after that, I had a lot of conversations with people about refugees and the danger and safety, and was I gonna buy a gun because who knows what can happen. And I get it on one level. I get the idea of being scared. I get the idea of not knowing what's going on and not knowing what will happen. But I keep coming back to the same idea over and over and over again. That idea is simply this. Our fear is often stronger than our compassion. And this is happening all the time. I think that's what's happening in most gun debates in general. It's what's happening in this immigration debate. We are afraid. We're afraid of losing something. And in some cases, it's losing our standard of living. In some cases, it's literally losing our lives. So I don't begrudge, and I don't get too angry when people are like, well, we're scared. What I wish would happen, though, is that people could admit that and just say it. They say, I'm doing this because I'm scared. they don't quite do it that way. They do it in a way that to them, I think, probably seems more noble or sounds more noble. More often we hear that we do things for safety. Now, safety doesn't necessarily imply that you're scared, but it does imply that you will be a protector, and that puts you in the position of a hero. For me to own a gun in my household, for me to go out and buy guns after, a San Bernardino shooting, I think it would imply that I'm scared. But my rhetoric on it could be, well, I'm going to protect, I'm going to be the hero, I'm going to make sure that people are safe. And it's under that idea that we seem to be doing a lot of our things politically, is we're framing them to make us a hero. The downside is, I think that when you really dig into it and look at it, it's almost impossible to come out looking like a hero. In this case of the refugees and immigration from these 7 different countries, we're not the hero. Putting the United States first, where the standard of living, from everything I can tell, is already like way up here compared to any of these countries that people are wanting to come from. I think what it is we are afraid that for a moment we might lose some ground in the quality of our lives. I think we're afraid that, oh, what if a terrorist gets through? So a terrorist gets through. Now let me clarify that real quick, because that was a strange thing to say. I think that we're afraid that our lives might start to look a little bit like the lives of the people who are trying to get out of these countries. That's what we're scared of. Like, oh, a terrorist. Now, refugees from a war-torn, screwed up, desperate situation that already have to spend 1.5 to 2 years just in the process of trying to get into the country. Can you imagine your life doing that? If things got so bad, like people sometimes are very serious, like, if Trump gets elected, I'm out of here, I'm moving somewhere else. But let's pretend like it got even worse from where it is now. Let's say our life in the United States went absolutely horrible. Like, and you had to get out. Like, safety truly was the concern. You're like, I gotta get out of here. So you try to hop the border to Canada, and Canada's like, yeah, you're gonna have to wait 1.5 to 2 years. And you say, but my kids and my family, like, we're dying here. We don't have food. The corruption is so much, like, nobody has a fair shot. We're living in a tin shelter in the desert. And Canada says, on second thought, I'm just gonna make you wait even more. We'd be furious at Canada. We'd be furious at any country who said that. We'd say, don't you get it? And they'd say, well, we can't really let you in. There are some people in your country that seem like they could pose a problem to our culture. Like people with, super hateful rhetoric, and politicians who have said, we can't take you based on a religious basis, which is so ludicrous to me. It hurts. It hurts so bad. Like, I know they're out there trying to spin it and be like, no, it's not about the religion, it's about the countries. It's about the religion when you come out and say Christians get priority. Then it's about religion. We can't seem to walk in other people's shoes, and it's a huge problem. The compassion needed to overcome this fear is massive. And I'm not saying it's easy to come by. I think it's very difficult to come by. How do we build that compassion? How do we let love cast out all fear? Not easy. It's very difficult. But in my mind, in issues like this, aside from the fact that it's like totally backwards that the country that for centuries, we are a country of freedom of religion, and then we say, but especially one religion. Like, that's icky and wrong and stupid. That part aside, when you look at the people, like just look at the stats. Who are we most afraid of? The kids and their moms? Now, I know there are exceptions to this. Again, San Bernardino, the couple who did this, they had a very, very, very small child. So you're like, we had a mom and a child right there, and it didn't stop anything. I'm going to say something that's going to sound very insensitive, and I'm sorry to do this, and I would not be surprised at any backlash. The number of people who have died from terrorist attacks in this country is super small. They're not insignificant, not by any stretch. Each one is a tragedy, each one is painful, each one is fueled by hate that we're just taking, recycling, and spewing back out. So they're not insignificant. But let's be clear on this too. How concerned are we with our safety when the number of attacks is far less than any other common cause of death? There's more in suicides per year than there are in terrorist attacks, like in the last 15 years. We have so much going on and so much that we need to focus on. It's not about the outside, there's stuff on the inside that we must fix. And I'm sorry for having to do a video like this, because I mean it when I say I'm sick of the politics. But when I try to think of, like, what do I have to say today, these are the things that float to the top of my head as the most important things that have to be articulated, that have to be expressed. I don't agree with what's going on right now at that federal presidential level. I think it's hurtful. I think it's hateful. I think it sends terrible messages to absolutely everybody. I appreciate the protests, and I want it to get better. I want it all to get better. But the only way it can get better is to show people that we are not fearful creatures that will turn to absolutely any means just to keep ourselves safe. I think it's still on Netflix. This is your homework, if you haven't seen it already. On Netflix, Twilight Zone. The episode is called The Shelter. It's one of my favorites. Because The Shelter is about a family who built a bomb shelter, and then they get word over the radio that everyone should go to their bomb shelters, but they are the only family in the neighborhood that has one. They're the only ones that have the thing to keep them alive. And people are pounding on the door saying, you need to let us in. And there's two things with that. The first, we have to think about, is our shelter big enough to hold more people who need it? And the second, which comes from that episode, is how many detestable, wretched things are we willing to do for our own preservation? By telling people you can't come to a land where you won't get shot, that's awful. To say, I get that your life is a living hell, but you know what? My life is pretty sweet, and I'm not willing to exchange any of that to help you get better. We need to reconsider who we are as people. We have to reconsider if we really believe that all lives matter. We need to reconsider whether or not our fear drives us more than our love and more than our compassion. So thanks for watching. This one felt even heavier than the last one, but it's stuff that I think needs to be said. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna scream. Screaming helps. I recommend you scream. It'll wreck your voice. It just made my day better. We'll see you next time.